Hi, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about doing a mod on the JBL 7510B. Now, these units are pretty interesting. They are a 3U automatic mixer unit, also branded UREI. There's three variants, the 7510, 7510A, and 7510B. And this is the B unit that we're looking at today. They have 4 channels per card, and it was built as something to go into boardrooms, bowling alleys, things like that, where you would turn all of the channels on, maybe set some to priority, and people would talk and it would gate the other channels and do one at a time, hence the automatic mixing part. Now we don't care about any of that. What we care about is the direct outs on each channel, because these preamps, designed and made by UREI, sound awesome. So the way these are designed is there's a potentiometer for each channel, and that is a basically volume attenuator. And to actually have set the gain for the preamps that are in here, there is a D-sub connector in the back. And if you can see the pins right there, they're shorted right there. Those are the gain set pins for each channel. Now, to turn this into a really great functioning recording preamp, what we need to do is we need to remove these volume attenuators, short out the connection where the pots are, and then we have to put in new pots. To find the value, this is a 2K reverse log pot from Mammoth. It's like an Alps pot. And we're gonna hook those up there. And then we're gonna run wires all the way to the back and connect it to where the pins come through the board that are from the D-sub connector. I'll put a link to the service manual under the video so you can check out the diagram for which pins go to which channels, because you'll need that to reference. So these are 2K reverse log pots from Mammoth, and if you look at the different values for the gain levels set across that you're supposed to put resistors across the D-sub here, you'll see that a good range is from 0 to 2K. And it's a reverse log pot because the more resistance is here, the quieter it is. So when you turn the pot, you want it less and less resistance to get a higher and higher signal. So you turn it up and turn it down. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these potentiometers. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do, get some wire clippers, and we're going to cut the pins on the pots that are here now. All right, so you cut the 3 pins. There's still the 4th post that's soldered in there to hold the big pot in, and we're gonna pull this out. All right. Once we've got that pot out, we're going to need to pull the pins. Some pliers, grab the pin on one side, get your soldering iron with the other hand. All right. So don't worry if the I don't know if you can see that. Don't worry if the trace from the other side comes off. We're going to be shorting the connection on the underside, this underside of the board. Alright, so I've removed the pins that I cut from these three. You might have to use a solder sucker to pull a little bit of the extra solder out. But basically you want to do that for the three other channels, and then we'll be ready to short the pins that we need to short. Okay, so we've now taken all of the pots out, all the old ones, all four of them off of this card, so take a look. And what we're going to have to do next is short the center pin to the pin to the right from the pots looking at this side of the board. So I made these little jumpers, and we're going to solder them in to make that connection. The center and the right, for one for each four of these. All right, let's get started. Okay, so that channel's done. You can push them sort of flat, the wires, and then we're going to do each of these three more channels. Okay, so we've finished the jumpers for where the pots were on the back. As you can see on this one, I lost the trace when I was removing the pin. The trace on the back came with it, and so there's just a little end of the trace sitting here connected to nothing. It's hard to get to connected to that little thing to jumper to it. So I figured out where that was going on the back and jumpered to there. So that should be all set. So the next step is to where your pots were, connect your new ones. These are the 5K reverse log pots. You might have to, depending on the version of the card that you get, or what's inside your unit, you might have to drill these holes out a little bit to fit normal pots, but just a tiny bit. That's what I had to do for this one. All right, so you're gonna have to pay attention to what channel is what when you connect these pots up, and where we're gonna connect them is where the D sub comes in and hits the board right here. So if you look at the ribbon connector on the top of the card is right here. So channel A, the first one, is on that side. So this is the bottom of the card and the top, and I can tell because the ribbon connector is at the top. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to wire up this pot, center, and the one to the right. If you do it the other way, you get some strange results. It's just, you know, this is the way to get what we need. And you can make this real pretty if you want to. I'm going to zip tie them later, but. Ooh. Okay. Alright, so these leads from this pot are going across the board. And there's a notch over here where we can run a couple of cables, so we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to go all the way to the back of the board. Now this is the trickiest part. If you remember, there are these jumpers for these different channels. We're going to pull those. And if yours are already gone, don't worry about it. We don't need them. But those are the pins, the gain set pins for these channels. We're going to have to find them with our little continuity tester. back here. Now, I've done a bunch of these cards, so I know that 1 and 2, I think, are the first two right here. So I'm going to cut my wire to be about the right length. And I'm going to strip just a tiny bit off the top. Tin those. Now they have to be very short because it's real busy under there on that where the D-sub ribbon comes in. Okay. All right. So actually, I think, you know, I'm going to reuse one of these jumpers. I'm going to bend it out. Let's see if I can do that. And if you don't want to do that, you can use just a piece of wire. I'm going to use it to figure out what pin in the D-sub goes to where on the board. Now, reference the diagram on the manual. You'll see the channel A, audio gain, is between 14 and 15. Pins 14 and 15. So I think it's the those top two there. So this is pin 15. As you can see, this is set to beep if it's connected. So I'm gonna connect it down there at the D-sub pin and find 15 where it comes in. There it is, right there. There's where 15 comes in. I'm going to move the pin in the D-sub to 14. And it should be the one right across from it. There it is. Not any of these other ones. So that's where my pot needs to be connected across. So this is the hardest part of this mod. Sometimes these pins are bent sideways. Sometimes you don't have enough solder there to really get a good connection. It can get a little tricky, a little hairy. But just do your best to get a good connection between the pin and your wire. That one's on there pretty well. Let's see if I can't come around on this one. I cut that a little short. All right, I think that's on there pretty well. I don't think that's a cold solder joint at all. Cool. All right, pretty much the same thing for the next 4 channels. Run the wire, the same two little spots on the pot, the middle and the right. Run it across. And it's going to be these two pins, and then the last two sets of pins along this section here. I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, but refer to the diagram and check your continuity to make sure you're putting it across the right set of pins. Alright, so this is a completed card. As you can see, I used a few zip ties to keep the cables together. And they're going back to the corresponding pins, soldered on there. I put a little zip tie here to keep the cables out of the way when you're reinstalling the cards. It's pretty handy to have that hold them together. And so that's it. You reinstall the card. Make sure to plug in the ribbon cable. Goes on the top here. And you should get 4 channels of really nice game. There you have it.